you are losing your faith because you do not want to stand firm in your faith. What's good? It's your boy Zachary Carroll, aka Pastor Z, and this is Christian Hood Talk, where we help you apply the Bible to all of life's craziness. Jordanpeterson is a famous psychologist that keeps popping up in my life. I wasn't too familiar with him, but apparently he has a lot to say and has had a lot to say recently about Christianity. I guess he has given his life to Jesus, or is kind of backed his way into believing in Jesus. I've been watching a few videos. I'm not really sure, but recently Jordanpeterson went on the Joe Rogan podcast and discussed the truth about the Bible.
Cool museum.
So the structure, that's what the Bible
it's what
provides.
I figured out. I just figured this out this week. So it was a cool thing to walk through because it's chronological. They have one floor, which is the history of the Bible. But it's not exactly that. It's really what it is the history of the book. Now, in many ways, the first book was the Bible. I mean, literally, because at one point there was only one book. Like, as far as our Western culture is concerned, there was one book. And for a while, literally, there was only one book. And that book was the Bible. And then before it was the Bible, it was it was scrolls and it was writings on papyrus. But we were starting to aggregate written text together. And it went through all sorts of technological transformations, and then it became books that everybody could buy, the book everybody could buy, and the first one of those was the Bible. And then it became all sorts of books that everybody could buy. But all those books, in some sense, emerged out of that underlying book. And that book itself, the Bible isn't a book, it's a library. It's a collection of books.
I agree with that 1,000%. Like, that's good. Like, it's not a book. It's a collection of books. It's 66 books that are put together, that were created by different people, different authors at different times. But they all say the same story. They all have a linear progression, and they all point to Jesus, which is the beauty. The Bible is thousands of years old. Approximately 4,000 to 5,000 years old from Genesis to Revelations, as far as how much time is discussed in between the stories and when they were written. The fact that the collection of books that make up the Bible were written so far apart in time frame, in some instances, different parts of the world, but they all say the same thing and they all connect and they're all unified in the person of Jesus Christ, is just a magnificent indication of God's sovereignty. He can share truth in extremely remote ways. It's just really amazing to see and get to experience when you read the Bible how everything lines up, how everything fits. It fits historically, it fits from a narrative perspective, it fits from a moral perspective, and I don't know, it's just, in my view, it's the most reliable piece of literature ever.
And so what I figured out was, partly because I was talking to my brother-in-law, Jim Keller, who's the world's greatest chip designer and has now designed a chip that's as powerful as the human brain, which is optimized for artificial intelligence learning, by the way. And so I talked to him about that. He said, "You heard of the internet?" I said, "Yeah, Jim, I've heard of the internet." He said, "This is way more revolutionary than that." So in any case, we were talking about meaning in text because we were talking about translation and the problem of understanding text. And Jim said, the meaning of words is coded in the relationship of the words to one another. And the postmodernists make that case, that all meaning is derived from the relationship between words. That's wrong because, well, what about rage? That's not words. And what about moving your hand? That's not words. So it's wrong.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm confused. I don't know what the boy talking about. Maybe I'm just dumb. I probably should listen to the whole interview, but ain't nobody got time for that.
But part of it's right, because the meaning we derive from the verbal domain is encoded in the relationship between words. So now then you think, well, let's think about the relationship between words. Well, some words are dependent on other words. Some ideas are dependent on other ideas. The more ideas are dependent on a given idea, the more fundamental that idea is.
Oh, so it sounds like he's talking about truth. So in order to really have an effective dialogue about anything, there needs to be some fundamental baseline that everybody can agree with, that everybody starts with. So if we're going to discuss how high the tree goes, we all need to be in agreement about where the ground is. Like, we all need to agree on zero if we're going to have any type of accurate measurement of anything. Yeah, I think he's starting to talk about like absolute truth. Like, what is something that is required for all knowledge? What is required for all types of communications? A fundamental idea that connects everybody.
That's a definition of fundamental. So now imagine you have an aggregation of texts in a civilization. You say, which are the fundamental texts? And the answer is the texts upon which most other texts depend. And so you'd put Shakespeare way in there in English because so many texts are dependent on Shakespeare's literary revelations. And Milton would be in that category, and Dante would be in that category, at least in translation. Fundamental authors, part of the Western canon, not because of the arbitrary dictates of power, but because those texts influenced more other texts. And then you think about that as a hierarchy, okay, with the Bible at its base, which is certainly the case. Now imagine that's the entire corpus of linguistic production, all things considered. Now, how do you understand that? Like, literally, how do you understand that? The answer is you sample it by reading and listening to stories and listening to people talk. You sample that whole domain. You build a low-resolution representation of that inside you, and then you listen and see through that. And so it isn't that the Bible is true. It's that the Bible is the precondition for the manifestation of truth, which makes it way more true than just true. It's a whole different kind of true. And I think this is not only literally the case, factually, I think it can't be any other way. It's the only way we can solve the problem of perception.
Romans 1 says that God made his glory self-evident. Sounds like I said, he was talking about absolute truth. And yes, absolute truth is the crux of what makes people not believe in Jesus, not believe in the Bible, not want to be a Christian. I've talked to a lot of non-Christians, a lot of people who don't believe in Jesus, and the fundamental difference we have is absolute truth versus relative truth. So I believe in absolute truth. That means there is something that is true no matter what country you're from, no matter what age you were born in. It is the foundation of truth, and it is in and of itself true. So Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one gets to the Father except through him. John 14:6. God created the heavens and the earth, and he is the arbitrator of morality, truth. So you cannot be a Christian if you do not believe those two fundamental truths. God created the world. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one gets to the Father, no one gets to God except through him. You can't be a Christian unless you believe those two absolute truths. And therein lies the issue, because a lot of people, they don't feel confident, even if they claim to believe in Jesus, they don't feel confident in saying that other people are wrong, because it's inconvenient. It makes you seem like a bad guy, and you might lose some friends. You are losing your faith because you do not want to stand firm in your faith. Paul teaches all throughout the New Testament to stand firm, be immovable. Like, you shouldn't be moved by human wisdom. You shouldn't be moved by other religions. You shouldn't be moved by false gods. You shouldn't be moved by sexual desire. You shouldn't be moved by anything. Immovable, stand firm. And you need to, if you are a Christian, you need to stand firm in the truth of Jesus Christ. So what is the big lesson here? I think the lesson that Jordan Peterson, in a very convoluted and complicated way, is saying that the Bible is truth. It's deeper than just true. Like 1 + 1 = 2 is true, but biblical principles is like the foundation to know anything about truth. This is my biggest issue with people who believe in relative truth. If you're going to say that it's true if you believe it, it's like, oh, okay, what are you using to base that truth on? Since truth is true if you believe it. Somebody has to be right and somebody has to be wrong. That's just the law of nature. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 3. No matter how badly you want it to, no matter how badly you feel like it does, no matter how inconvenient, how uncomfortable, or how vilifying it is, 1 + 1 will never, ever equal 3. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments what you think of this Jordan Peterson clip. I'd love to dialogue with you down below. If you aren't subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you found this video helpful, please share it with a friend. My name is Zachary Carroll, aka Pastor Z. This is Christian Hood Talk. Y'all be cool.